And welcome into Poke the Bear episode 126. That is Conor Ryan, Evan Marinofsky. Conor, what is up?
Evan, I'm doing well. How you doing?
Doing great. Conor, you dropped a big piece of news earlier this week on Tuesday that you have a new job. First of all, congratulations. I think I speak for all of the listeners, as well as myself, many others. Very well deserved. It's been a long time coming, and I'm very happy for you. And, how does it feel?
Pretty good, Evan. Pretty good. It was been an interesting couple of weeks. Definitely a very tough decision to, move on from Boston Sports Journal. But again, eternally grateful to Greg and everyone else who works there, who work extremely hard to bring you in-depth coverage night in and night out. For Greg to take a chance on me 4 years ago and kind of give me the keys to a beat job full-time covering a team like the Bruins was definitely a leap of faith, but hopefully I've answered the call in that regard, and I'm proud of the work I've done there, of the audience I hope I've built and, interacted with, and, am going to keep going forward with. So it's been fantastic run. Again, grateful to Greg, everyone, Sean, John, Brian, Rob was there. There's so many people along the way that have helped me out tremendously during my time there. So very thankful for that, and excited to take my talents, I guess, to Boston.com in the next couple of weeks, where I'll be again focusing on Bruins, but also doing a little bit of everything, whether it's Celtics, Red Sox, Patriots, whatever's kind of out there, whatever interesting news stories are out there that people are talking about, I will be right in the thick of it with that. So really, really excited to get started. But for people who are worried about the dearth of Bruins content or anything like that, we will again keep you updated. I announced it on Twitter, but to the doom and gloom of the haters, we will be continuing our podcast 7. So I'll still be on Bruins Beat. Of course, we'll still be running Poke the Bear, so that will be going strong. I will still have my daily musings, tweets, GIFs, horrible memes, all that stuff daily for the Bruins. And as I said earlier, we'll still have plenty of Bruins content rolling out over at Boston.com that I'm excited to share in the weeks and months ahead. So again, to be in this spot, again, thankful for BSA for taking a chance on me, but also to the readers, the listeners on this podcast, everyone that's interacted and helped, grow my profile as well. I mean, I wouldn't be in the spot without your guys' readership, views, listens, all that stuff. So very, very thankful for quite a few things these days, Evan. It's a good time.
Yes, thankful. It's a good time. I mean, again, you look at, I will always be impressed that, you took the job and you really made it your own. I mean, you went up against The Athletic, which was also subscription-based. Bruins serve, not just Bruins, just like PSJ has all the sports, and you competed. You were right in there and did an outstanding job. And what else is there to say? You've grown your profile a ton in the past 4 years. You've worked your ass off, and I'm so happy for you. And I'm also so happy that we get to continue doing this. We both got new jobs in the last 3 months, and both
the train keeps on rolling.
We both said, can we please continue to do our podcast? And credit to both of our employers. They said yes. So really fun. We get to continue doing this. And I look forward to seeing everything you do at Boston.com and all the great work you do, and across the other sports too. Some Red Sox, Celtics, Patriots, maybe some Revolution. I don't know. Maybe not.
Everything. We'll see.
It's another creative thing.
It's the fun part of the job, right? You never know what each new day is going to bring you.
Oh, it's like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get.
Yes.
Anyways, though, very happy for you. And again, well-deserved. You know how I feel about that. But anyways, on to Bruins news. There isn't a ton, but there's new developments. Pavel Zacha, we talked a little bit about this on Bruins Beat, continues to be a very good secondary option for the second line. Now, we talked a little bit about kind of, do you want him long-term? But for right now, that seems to be working out pretty well.
Yeah, I think you look at it, and let's not mix things up here. Like the Bruins, when they're at their full strength, when they're playing at their highest ceiling, it's when David Krejci's entrenched in that second line spot. Like, yes, he's had a few lulls in scoring. He's fought through a little bit of injuries, but when he's out there in the second line anchoring that group and controlling the pace of play, setting up players, that's when the Bruins are at their best. So make no mistake about that. We're not talking about a in-season succession in terms of who's taking over the second line role, but I think if you're the Bruins, you have to be very pleasantly surprised at what a guy like Pavel Zacha has provided this team. I mean, this is the guy that when the Bruins traded for him was viewed as maybe a bit of a project. You didn't really know exactly what you had in him, but offered a lot of promise beyond just the first round pick, the top 10 pick, and those things. He seemed like a guy that just in a change of scenery could give you 35, 45-ish points, right? And a guy that could be kind of a versatile weapon up and down the lineup. And yes, he's been good in the third line in those spots. I think we spoke about it before with Zacha, that a lot of his play along the boards, finer details, stuff that maybe doesn't get recognized has been impressive, though. It's like, may not even be accounting for a secondary assist, but he does little things that lead to a lot of really promising ozone chances. But yeah, when he's been slotted up into that top 6 role in place of Krejci, he's been money. I mean, I think it's been 5 games that Krejci has missed due to injury. And in every single one of those games where Zacha's taken over for him, he's recorded at least a point. I think it's 6 total points in 5 games. And it's not like he's getting, just like, give me, secondary assist or what have you. He's setting up guys. I mean, he had that great setup on forward's goal. He's had a lot of really good plays, keeping the puck in, fighting down low, just doing all those things that can contribute to a line, especially when, in Zacha's case, you have a guy like Jake DeBrusk or Pasternak or Taylor Hall on his line. Like he's playing right with these guys, and they're helping elevate his play as well. But if you're the Bruins, you have to be thrilled. I mean, this is a guy that, in the best case scenario, he's probably still on that third line, but wherever they put him, he's been very productive.
I mean, again, I just, to me, coming into the season, and this kind of leads into our next discussion of, do the Bruins regret not signing him long-term? Because again, he's on a 1-year deal. I still, even as good as he's been this year, I still come from the perspective of it's probably a better thing they didn't sign him long-term. Yes, he may get himself a very big payday at the end of this year. That would have been more than if he signed a long-term deal last offseason. But I think at the time, and maybe we shouldn't go off what we would have thought at the time, but I think if at the time they said, here's a 5-year, what do you want to say, like $25-30 million deal, that would have been a lot.
Yeah.
But if that's what they did, we'd be sitting here going, oh, you signed another, borderline top 6,
3C, yeah,
probably a 3C or a 3 left wing for $5.5 million a year. Would kind of be like, why'd you do that? Now, again, if he plays like this, then it's worth it, right? And would say, okay, well, that contract's worked out. But I still think they've made the right move in saying we're going to judge off of this year. Now, again, it could just be he's in a contract year. That's, part of the wheelings and dealings of these things. But I still don't. I think it's still for the better that they didn't sign him long-term heading into this year, because also you are still tight against the cap.
Right.
That's another aspect. What is your take on this?
Yeah, I think it's one of those ones where, hindsight's 50-50 in terms of, because as you said, if the Bruins signed him to like $5 million a year on a long-term deal,
Twitter would have exploded.
Yeah, because again, he was one of those guys that when they traded for him had promised people like, all right, new spot, higher up in the line, and maybe he'll do well. Maybe he'll be a guy that, again, I don't think people were expecting him to break out for 60 plus points, but if he could be just a really useful middle 6 weapon, they'll take it. But for $5 million for a guy that hadn't proved that baseline before, and if you ask Devils fans on Twitter, it's like this guy, I think we were talking about
was robbing banks.
Yeah, of anyone who is on this Bruins team, I feel like Zacha's one that gets the most pushback from like when you tweet about him, and it's not from Bruins fans. It's literally from a spot where it's Devils fans talking about his past maybe underwhelming performances. But I mean, so far, it's worked out well for the Bruins, but you couldn't really lock him into that deal. Now, if it was a 5-year deal at, 4.125, 4.4, something like that, maybe then you could find that happy medium. But again, I don't think the Bruins I think Bruins on the list would rather have been like, all right, let's lock him in for 1 year, kick that can down the road, because we also have to fit in Bergeron and Krejci's contracts. We have to still deal with Pasternak, which is not resolved. Like there was far more important things, I think, on the to-do list, but it does raise it brings up an interesting kind of conundrum when you look at this upcoming season, because yes, not a lot has changed in terms of still got to deal with Pasternak, which again, the price still goes up there. You still have to worry about Bergeron and Krejci, whether are they coming back? If they are, you still have to deal with that bonus overage money that even if they do come back, you have to tack that on top of it. Not great. And also now for Zacha, it's one of those things where, and I think it's a good problem to have with the Bruins, where he's looked pretty good in those top 6 roles. For the first time in a while, you at least have some other piece that you can look to the future and be like, well, that could be an option. That's not to say that Zacha is David Krejci, or he's going over an 82-game season, all of a sudden break through and become a 65, 70-point scorer. We're not saying that, but at the very least, he gives you options there. If you're looking at that kind of bleak landscape and both, or maybe even one of Bergeron or Krejci retires next year, retaining a guy like Zacha stands as a pretty prudent move to at least keep some level of structure in place there without having to trade for Bo Horvat or you trade for Clayton Keller in the off, or one of the many guys that I'm sure we'll talk about this offseason if it comes to that. But that's the thing for, Zacha is a useful piece, and I'm sure the Bruins would like to keep him. But in terms of where their mindset and where their priorities were, especially back in the summer, made sense that, settle for a little bit of a pay bump, 1-year deal, prove it, and accept the potential ramifications that come with it. And I wouldn't call it ramifications, but it's a scenario they could have seen happening where he was, putting himself in line for a nice payday, and hopefully the Bruins can meet it when they get to free agency.
Safe bet that when it comes time to pay Pavel Zacha, he will get paid. We're talking really safe bets. And by getting paid, I mean like a lot. I don't mean like there, someone's going to pay.
Someone will offer him a contract of employment.
There will be a contract sent to him at some point. You hit on it a little bit there with Zacha as a potential 2C in the future, right? Like he's not, I don't think Bruins fans are like, oh, that's the official 2C of the future, right? But at the same time, I think there's a little solace in if Bergeron and Krejci do retire, or if one of them retires, he at least fills a hole, and I think like it's not, Stanley Cup is officially on with Pavel Zacha as a 2C, but you can see it, right? Like it makes sense. And the proof is there so far that it's been working, and let's say, next year it's, I don't know, a second line of, Hall, Zacha, and Pastrnak, right? If Pasternak's still here. It's a question.
We'll see.
We'll see about that one. But if that's the second line and your first line is, Marchand, insert center, and DeBrusk, that's, again, if Bergeron and Krejci decide to retire, you can find a way to get by with that. And I think we've talked about this a bit. Like, as long as they re-sign Pastrnak, they have 4 very good top 6 wingers in Marchand, DeBrusk, Pastrnak, and Hall that can kind of elevate any center. We saw it with Eric Hall last year. Now, are you Stanley Cup contenders with it? I don't know. That's going to be hard to tell. It's going to depend on, how Zacha does the rest of the year and who's actually the number 1 center. But I still think that, you can make the playoffs at the very least with that, which is why I don't think they're going to fully, stink if Bergeron and Krejci do retire next year. But that is stuff that we'll get to later on this season. We're not going to jump too far ahead. Let's look towards this season. They're rolling. Everything's working. And it's been that way since night 1 of the season. This isn't even a hot streak anymore. This is just everything is firing. It's December. We're recording December 15th. It's just, they're rolling. I mean, it's ridiculous. Like, no one could have seen this coming. We've talked about this 1,000 times. Nobody could have seen this coming. But is there an Achilles heel to this team that you see?
Yeah, I mean, I did my latest Q&A over at BSJ, and a lot of the comments were getting positive. And as you said, there's not a whole lot to complain about, but I think it's just that inherent fear in Bruins fans of something going wrong down the road, right? Of like, they're going great. When they get to the playoffs, like I think there's always that little like bubble of fear that's kind of just hanging in the back of your brain that you're worried is going to get exposed at some point. I think for me, if you're looking at 1 year, they need to like tighten up, or they just need to get their ducks in a row. I think it has to be the goaltending in terms of Jeremy Swayman. Like Linus Ullmark's playing great right now, but if there's one person I think you need to get right, and there's very few that are in that kind of category, it's Swayman and Greg Smith, really, right?
Greg Smith's kind of been noticeable, though, in the past couple of games he's been in. He's done his job. He won't be in the lineup against the Islanders, but I still think, or not the Islanders, the Kings.
Yeah.
But he's done, I've noticed him at least. I'll give him that.
Yeah. And so I think for Swayman, it's a spot where, yes, we've talked about this before, but Ullmark's playing great, is putting himself in contention for getting, Vezina consideration. I think would be well deserved. But last thing you want to do is roll him out there 60 plus, games during the regular season and him running out of gas. This is a guy that has been very good. He's shown promise throughout his career, even when he was on some very bad teams in Buffalo. But the one thing that you don't really know about him is how much of a workhorse he can be in terms of when he gets to the grind of the postseason. This is a guy whose career high in games played was 41 last year with the Bruins. Like, this is not a guy that you want to have him be running on fumes by the time you get to April and May. Like, we saw that in years past with some very good Tampa teams where Vasilevsky plays a whole lot, runs out of gas. Doesn't mean he's not a good goalie. It's just you can't tax these guys to that extent, and especially a guy like Ullmark who hasn't really been pushed that much before. So I think for the Bruins, not only is it important to get Swayman right in terms of his own play and getting confident and being a guy that can give you kind of that, two-headed monster in net, which is what the Bruins are hopeful for. And again, Swayman's a guy that, even though there's been some rough games, firm games, you'd like to have a few goals back. It's not like he's regressing where what you've seen, in flashes in previous seasons is all but gone, right? Like, he's just working through a few things, as is the case with every young goalie. I think that is kind of learning the ropes up in the NHL and fighting through teams getting the book on you and what have you. But I think if you're the Bruins, it's all about getting Swayman right, getting him playing confident, having him take on more games down the stretch here, not only to, have him playing at a high level, but also relieve some of the pressure on Ullmark, because I don't think it's a stretch to say right now, if the playoffs began, it'd be Ullmark going the whole way.
Really?
And the last thing you want to do is have him be in a spot where he's taxed or he's not playing at his highest level. And in order to do that, you need to give him a little bit of rest and ease up that workload down this kind of the dog days of the regular season.
I have the same one. I was going to say, if Ullmark starts to struggle, that's going to be a real issue because Swayman has not found his grip yet. I will do something different, though. We like to always alternate answers, and I'd rather not say, oh, I agree. It's the same thing. My Achilles heel, and this is a little bit down the road, but we mentioned it earlier, but Pastrnak is still not re-signed. As of recording this, he is not re-signed yet. Now, there doesn't seem to be any progress publicly, at least. There's been no real talk of it. What happens when you get to the trade deadline? Now, they're not trading him, but is there an argument to be made that, if he is going to leave in the offseason, which again, there's no indication that he will, but he's not signed yet. If the Bruins think, hey, there's some team's going to offer him a ton, we can't really offer him a center of the future, he might leave, is there going to be that talk of trading him? Now, they shouldn't trade him. You're trying to win a Stanley Cup this year. You're not there's no superstar for superstar deal you can do that even matches it. Pastrnak is your guy. I am not advocating for trading David Pastrnak. That is, trading him would be so stupid, like crazy levels of dumb. But I am curious if there's any talk about that. Remember in the 2020 season, there's a little talk of, should the Bruins trade Krug, get something for him before he leaves in free agency. That was a little more sure that he probably wouldn't come back. And that was even before COVID hit. This is different, but I think also you look at Calgary and you see Gaudreau kind of just walking away, and they didn't get anything for him. But again, that's part of the deal here. Yeah. If Pastrnak delivers you a Stanley Cup and God forbid leaves in the offseason, well, at least you got a Stanley Cup out of it, right? And then on top of that, and this is more general, with the deadline, with it coming up, most likely, if they're going to go out and get people, even if it's just depth players, they're going to have to do some salary cap work, whether that's sending players away, waivers, whatever, disrupting locker room chemistry. That's something to think about. Again, that's not huge, but again, I mean, they seem to be a pretty tight-knit group. They're playing for each other. They like their coach. If one of them gets dealt away for, just to free up space, if they went out and got like a Jonathan Taves or something like that, which we'll get to again as the deadline gets closer and closer. We're not there yet. We're not going to sit here and discuss names of people that they could get. I don't know. It's something that I think could be an issue. I don't think it derails the season. Something to watch, which always fun. Always fun to look for Achilles heels, Connor. Isn't that fun? It's
like we had like a nice podcast, like, oh, congrats on the new opportunity. Everywhere, keep on rolling. By the way, this team might be in trouble. We're keeping it rolling, Evan.
Pastrnak traded, goes, signs with the Toronto Maple Leafs, and that couldn't happen.
Baby.
Yeah, we're back in mid-season form.
This isn't going away.
This isn't. Anyways, Connor, what can people look forward to from you on your last week or so at BSJ.
Yeah, we're going to keep the content train rolling on. We're going to still have all the daily coverage over at BSJ, whether it's game reports, columns, some features, Q&As, all that stuff, everything you can expect from the in-depth coverage we have here at bostonsportsjournal.com. So please subscribe at bostonsportsjournal.com, both this week and even when I make my move onward. Please subscribe because there's a lot of people doing a lot of great work there as well. So please subscribe over at BSJ. If you want to follow me on Twitter, you can at ConorRyan_93.
Go do all that. That's Conor Ryan, Evan Marinofsky. Poke the Bear listeners. Have a great rest of your week.